I'd start by saying that there's a brave few in this crowd today who I recognise who would have been there on the day that Stone attacked the funeral. And, you know, before I talk about the actual attack on that day, I'd like people to think back to what it was like for Republicans to bury their dead during that period. It started with the attack on Joe McDonald's funeral, July 1981, and it continued right through that whole period. And just a few weeks before Stone's attack here, we had the British Army and the RUC attacking the funeral of our two comrades who were killed in South Armagh, the two Brendans. So that was the context. It was every time that we tried to bury our comrades with dignity, we were attacked, we were harassed. Whenever we sought to lay our three comrades to rest here in this place of sanctuary, whenever we sought to do that in March in 1988, there were no Brits about the road. There were no cops about the road. That all we had were two helicopters above us. And, you know, the thing about it was, we didn't know whether that was going to be a relief or whether it was an ominous sign. And, you know, the way that Republicans bury their dead, it's paying honour to the People's Army. It's paying honour to the bravery and the sacrifice of those guys, men and women, who have fought for the rights of this community. And that was an affront to the state. The state didn't like that. The state tried to intimidate us from burying our comrades in that way. It's with a mixture of relief and concern that we entered the graveyard on the day. As we made our way down and came into the cemetery, and we gathered round the graves, it wasn't until our first two comrades, Dan and Mairéad, were laid in. Sean still wasn't in the ground at this stage, when we heard the thump, thump, thump. That's what it was like. It wasn't like explosions that we would have been more used to be honest with you. It was like a dull clunk that we heard. And you see behind us here, see the nearest graves, there are still pock marks on the graves where Stone's grenades landed. And the first number of grenades that landed around here, there was confusion, there was panic, people were squealing and shouting, and the next thing was they were shouting, "There he is there, that's him." And people turned and looked, and we could see Stone. And the main crowd ran down that pathway to get Stone, the bulk of the crowd. There were a few of us who were over here. We came down this way and made our way along through the, ended up going through the bogs to try and cut him off and the bog. And, you know, whenever you think of it, there was an Irish Times journalist said that the bravery that he witnessed on the day, says any other situation, if it had been in a military situation, the people concerned, the young people concerned, who chased Stone down, who faced them, who faced into his bullets and his grenades, that any other situation, they would have been given military decorations. So, but as the main bulk of the crowd went down this way, I went down that way. I ended up being injured in a grenade down at the bog. And, you know, the majority of the people headed on down, and they actually caught him, as you know, on the motorway here. I limped back up. I was put into a car, and I didn't know it at the time, but in the front of the car I knew that there was an injured comrade, and it turned out that it was Keevy McBrady was in the front of the car, and he was being nursed on the way down to the hospital. And whenever I arrived in the hospital, I didn't know who was dead, who was injured. But whenever it became clear, there were 3 people who were killed on the day, but there were over 60 injured. There was a pregnant woman injured, there were kids injured, and whenever you think of that this community, rather than care, rather than hide, they chased down the gunman, they ran into the bullets, they ran into the shrapnel, and that, Accordia, is why we're here today to unveil this monument and to mark the bravery and the sacrifice of our comrades, of our heroes, of our community. Gura Mágath.
The gathering here today is testament to the courage and determination of Kevin McCracken, Caoimhín McBrady, John Murray, Thomas McErlane, Dan McCann, Sean Savage and my Auntie Mairéad. It is testament to the legacy that they have left behind them, and of course to the love and adoration their families and friends will always have for them. It is so often said that we stand on the shoulders of giants, and that we most certainly do. That is never more clear than when standing here at the Republican plot in Milltown Cemetery at the graveside of so many of our Republican dead. I often come here when I'm in Belfast. I see it as a quiet spot to reflect on lost loved ones and just simply to reflect. My experience of this place is worlds apart from the chaos which ensued 30 years ago. I wasn't alive on the 16th of March 1988. But both my mother and my father were here that day. Without the courage shown by the Milltown heroes, I may very well not be here today. Caoimhín, John and Thomas got up that morning simply to go to Milltown, like every single one of us here today, to remember Dan, Sean and Mairéad and to show their solidarity with the families. They could not have known what lay before them. And now, when we speak of Gibraltar, we also speak of them. The priority of the 3 in Gibraltar was the exact same as Kevin McCracken and those who died in Milltown: the protection and future of their community and their country. Immense bravery was shown by Caoimhín, John and Thomas and all others who ensured the end of the attacks on the funerals. They say that human instinct makes you turn away from danger, but their gut instinct was to keep their people safe and to protect the mourners. And that kind of a gut instinct is, in my book, what makes a hero. The shocking scenes which unfolded were deplorable, but this was nothing new to the people of Ireland, and sadly it was not the last time that we witnessed collusion in this country. Right now there is a hunger for truth. Every family that campaigns to highlight collusion campaigns for us all. Their battle is our battle, their campaign is our campaign, and we will not rest until the truth is out. The British government thought that through their actions in Gibraltar, Achnacloy and Loughgall, that they could quash Republican resistance, that they could destroy Republican morale. Well, look at the crowd around you, how wrong they were. These injustices not only bred increased resistance to the imperialist oppressor, it brought the people of Belfast and the entire Republican community even closer together. The days which followed the murders of Dan, Sean and Mairéad demonstrated the strength and the resilience of the people of West Belfast. The spotlight was put on this community during that period, and with the vultures in the media printed horrific headlines which I would dare not repeat. They tried to demonise this community. They tried to demonise our dead, and in that they failed. At the time, my granddad wrote a poem about Gibraltar, and I think it sums up the hypocrisy. He wrote, "The story goes that they were fanatics, dangerous terrorists, they said. Who? The assassins? No, the dead. That bias in the media hasn't changed. The British continues to wage war all over the world, and a blind eye is turned. Families in Afghanistan and Iraq have suffered the same loss and heartache as my family and the families of many others here today. That same media attempted to discredit a key witness to the killings of Dan and Mairéad, Carmen Proeda. Carmen, who just happened to be looking out of her window at the time, told us the security forces, didn't do anything. They just went and shot these people. That's all. They didn't say anything. They didn't scream. They didn't shout. They didn't do anything. She had no connection with Ireland, no connection with our families, but she would not be deterred. She stood firm for truth and justice and everything that is right in the world, no matter the consequences. 2 days after International Women's Day, I can most certainly say that it is women like Carmen Proeda who I strive to be more like each day. And when I speak of strong women, it would be remiss of me not to mention my granny. In my family, we always say that my granny was a strong one. The person who always had the strength to support Mairéad during the time in jail, during the hunger strike and much more. And in some strange and a very sad coincidence, on the 16th of March 2010, 22 years after my family were here to bury Mairéad, my family were back. The first Mairéad Farrell of my family, my granny, was buried here in Milltown on that date, just a few metres from where we stand now. And I will always have in our thoughts. But I think events like this are so important. I've always said that the best way to commemorate our dead is by not sitting back, but by creating the republic that they died for. But that being said, I do think that commemorations are very important, just to ensure that we do not forget, that future generations understand our history. And that's why I think a plaque like that being unveiled today is so important. Physical structures which serve as a constant reminder of our history. But we know that our dead is not truly gone. While we remember them, celebrate them, and continue their fight. We are standing at the graves of political leaders and heroes. They live while we live. They breathe while we breathe. While even just one of us holds their vision for freedom, then their legacy lives on. This is something that cannot be understood by the oppressor. While the idea lives on, so does the freedom fighter. But we must always remember that they gave their lives fighting imperialism and that we might live in a free, united socialist Ireland. We must take no half measures. We cannot accept a republic in name only. We must ensure a republic which truly cherishes all the children of the nation equally, or we have failed. Bicúisina na Gaeilge go smar Sean Savage agus Cuimhín McBrady. Hiag siad an uthalacht agus an severas cultúra óhan na teanga dúchas na tíre seo agus an cuacht a bhocht le ahalbhún na Gaeilge chun coshaintear. Siad an gomach bród na hóglaí sin, do bhecach siad an gcuélú atá hééis torlú an seo mell ferste, agus an dígris réimhlóideach atá fin lúiseacht na Gaeilge a gúnaí, a measc an níos óg ach go háirithe. Nor bhíonn ach na Gaeilge bainte amach agin, níor son na glúna seo amháin a bheith sí, ach ar son na glúnta a Jimmy Roon, agus í siúd nach mo tací fós. I am proud to stand here with you today. I am proud of those we commemorate today, and I am most certainly proud to carry on their Republican tradition. Liam Mellows called the volunteers of 1916 unconquerable. I am saying that the IRA volunteers were unconquerable and that we too will be unconquerable. It was Pádraig Pearse who said, "If you strike us down now, we shall rise again and renew the fight." You cannot conquer Ireland. You cannot extinguish the Irish passion for freedom. If our deed has not been sufficient to win freedom, then our children will win it by a better deed. Let us be those children. Let us do that deed. Let us win. Very much bua.